Welcome. If you're a security leader, this explainer is for you. We're going to break down the foundational networking concepts you need to govern effectively and manage risk, and we're going to do it all in plain language. Let's start with a fundamental truth. Think about it. Every single cyber attack, whether it's an insider threat or a complex cloud breach, has one thing in common. It has to move across a network. Connectivity is the shared battlefield. And if you don't really get what's happening at that network layer, you're always going to be playing catch up. I want to be really clear about our goal here. This isn't about turning you into a network engineer. You're not going to be configuring routers after this. Instead, what we are going to do is give you the mental models you need to supervise your teams, to challenge their assumptions, and at the end of the day, to make those tough risk decisions with real confidence. All right, so to govern the network, we first have to have a shared, simple understanding of what it even is. Because a network is way more than just cables and boxes. At its heart, it's a system that is built on trust. At its absolute core, a network is just about communication. But from your perspective, as a CISO, every single one of those connections represents an implicit decision about trust. You know, attackers don't always go for the hard stuff, like breaking encryption. A lot of the time, they just find and exploit the trust pads that you've already built right into the system. Okay, so how do we even begin to wrap our heads around all this activity? Well, there's a really useful tool for that. A model that helps us deconstruct what's happening on the network, especially when things, go wrong. Now, this is a super important distinction. The OSI model, it's not a blueprint for how to build a network. Think of it more like a diagnostic framework. When an incident kicks off, this framework is what lets us isolate the problem and ask the really critical questions. Okay, where did things break down? And which one of our controls should have caught them? So here they are, the 7 layers. And look, you absolutely do not need to memorize these. What's important is just understanding the concept, how they all work together, one on top of the other, to get data from an app on my computer to an app on yours. Now, this is where it gets really practical for you as a leader. Take layer 3, the network layer. Your tech teams are going to be talking about IP addresses and subnets, but your question, the CISO's question, is different. It's, do we actually know where this traffic is supposed to be going? See how that works? It elevates the whole conversation from the technical weeds up to risk management. That's the power of this model. All right, with that model in our back pocket, let's look at the actual building blocks. Just about every network out there, big or small, is built using 3 key pieces of hardware. And for you, understanding what each one does and what it doesn't do is absolutely critical. Let's use a simple analogy here. Think of a switch. It's like the local neighborhood streets connecting all the houses right next to each other. The router, that's the highway system that connects different neighborhoods together. And the firewall, well, that's the security checkpoint on that highway. It's the one looking at the traffic and deciding who gets to pass based on a very specific set of rules. Okay, and here's a really common and really dangerous trap. People often confuse a router's basic filtering, these things called ACLs, with a real firewall. That's a huge mistake. It's like using a simple lock on your bedroom door to try and secure a bank vault. It's just not the right tool for the job. A firewall is a purpose-built security device. It gives you context, it gives you visibility, and it gives you the kind of accountability that your auditors are going to demand. Okay, so we've got the building blocks. Now let's talk about the dangerous assumptions that make them fall apart. I'm going to walk you through 2 of the most common traps I see that lead directly to major security failures. For a long time, we built security like a castle, right? A big, hard shell on the outside, and the assumption was that everything and everyone on the inside was safe and could be trusted. We call that the perimeter model. But here's the hard reality. Internal does not mean trusted. As soon as an attacker gets past that wall, and they will, a flat, wide-open internal network basically becomes their playground. It makes it trivially easy for them to move from one system to the next completely undetected. All right, on to the second trap. How many times have you seen an access rule that says something like, allow IP address X to talk to server Y? We see it all the time. But let's stop and ask a fundamental question. What does an IP address actually prove? And here's the key takeaway you need to internalize. An IP address is a location, not an identity. That's it. It's like a mailing address for a house. Anyone could be inside, it can be shared, it can be faked, so relying on an IP address as your only proof of who someone is, well, it's a fundamentally flawed security model. Okay, so let's pull this all together. We've talked about the components, a model for thinking, and a couple of really dangerous assumptions. So, how do you take this literacy and turn it into real, effective leadership? Here are 5 principles to burn into your memory. First, every single connection is a trust decision. Second, that OSI model, it's your diagnostic tool for when things go wrong. Third, always use the right tool for the job. Firewalls are for policy, routers are for getting data from A to B. Fourth, constantly challenge those 2 big assumptions that internal is safe and that an IP address proves who someone is. And finally, we spend so much time watching the front door, but uncontrolled outbound traffic is a massive risk that often gets overlooked. Look, just by understanding these core concepts, you're in a much, much stronger position to oversee one of the most critical parts of your security program. You now have the vocabulary to step into a network design review and not feel lost. You can look at an incident report and actually understand the timeline. And most importantly, you can ask your teams the right questions, the ones that focus on business risk, not just technology. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to take back to your team. Based on what we've just discussed, what's the one network decision or implicit trust assumption in your organization that now worries you the most? And the really important part is, what are you going to do about it?